All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack one of the biggest, most powerful ideas in the history of Western thought. Imagine trying to create a filing system for, well, literally everything that exists. That's what Aristotle did. This idea comes straight from his masterpiece on logic, the Organon. And trust me, it completely changed the game.
But first, let's just stop and think about the sheer scale of the problem he was tackling. I mean, how would you go about organizing everything that exists? And I mean everything. Every object, every thought, every quality. It's mind-boggling, right? Where do you even begin?
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the chaotic world of ideas Aristotle was dealing with. Then, we'll dive into his actual blueprint for reality. We'll give special attention to the star of the show, which is substance, then meet the 9 other categories, and finally, we'll see why this ancient system is still incredibly relevant today.
All right, to really get why Aristotle's idea was so revolutionary, you have to picture ancient Greece at the time. It was this incredible hotbed of ideas, just buzzing with energy, but it was also kind of chaotic. You had these guys, the sophists, who were masters of debate, but for them it was more about winning the argument than finding the actual truth. It was a world of word games, and that created a ton of confusion.
And this wasn't just some academic debate, you know? It was a real crisis. Think about it. If words don't have stable meanings, if justice or good can just mean whatever you want it to mean to win an argument, then how on earth can you build real knowledge? How could you ever do science or philosophy if the very language you're using is built on sand? You just can't.
So, Aristotle saw this mess and decided to create a solution. Not just another argument, but a tool for thinking clearly. He called his collection of works on logic the Organon, which literally just means tool. And the very first piece in that toolkit, the absolute foundation, was his work called the Categories.
And here it is, his big, revolutionary idea. Aristotle said that anything you can possibly say about anything in the universe can be neatly filed into one of 10 basic categories. Yep, just 10. It's basically a filing system for all of reality. The main file, the one that holds everything together, is substance. All the other 9 are just different ways of describing that substance. How much of it there is, what it's like, how it relates to other things, you get the idea.
Okay, so to really understand how this all works, we have to start with the star of the show, substance. Seriously, this is the absolute bedrock of his whole system. Everything, and I mean everything, is built on this one idea.
So what exactly is a substance? Well, this is where Aristotle gets really specific and, honestly, really brilliant. When he talks about a primary substance, he doesn't mean the general idea of, say, a horse. He means that specific horse over there in the field. He means this individual human, this specific tree. It's the concrete individual thing itself. It's the subject that has all the properties, but it isn't a property of something else.
Now, to make sure we're all on the same page, Aristotle makes this super important distinction. There's a difference between saying what a thing is and describing a property it has. For example, saying Socrates is a human tells you the kind of thing he is. Aristotle calls this a secondary substance. But saying Socrates is pale describes a quality in him. Paleness can't exist without Socrates or some other body to be pale. That quality is what he calls an accident or an attribute. And this really gets to the heart of it. A primary substance, you, me, a specific rock, can exist all by itself. But think about the other stuff. Can redness just float around in a room on its own? Or can 6 feet tall exist without something that is 6 feet tall? Of course not. These things, qualities, quantities, relations, they all need a substance to attach themselves to. They can't exist independently.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Aristotle put it about as clearly as you can. He said, for if the primary substances did not exist, it would be impossible for any of the other things to exist. I mean, that's pretty direct, right? Without the individual things, there's nothing to talk about. The whole system of reality just falls apart. They're the foundation.
Okay, so we've got our star player, substance. Now let's meet the rest of the team. The other 9 categories are basically the supporting cast. They're all the different ways we can describe any given substance.
So what are these other 9? Think of them as a complete checklist. They cover pretty much every possible question you could ask about a substance to build a full picture of it and where it fits into the world.
And here's the whole list. Aristotle gives these really down-to-earth examples. You've got the obvious ones, right? Like quantity, how much of something there is, or quality, what it's like. But he also gets into some more interesting ones, like action, he cuts, and what he calls passion, which is basically the flip side, being acted upon, like he is being cut. When you put them all together, place, time, position, and the rest, you have a complete toolkit for describing anything.
Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, this is interesting, but why does a 2,300-year-old filing system actually matter today? And that's a fair question. The answer is because this was way more than just some philosophical thought experiment. This idea literally shaped the world we live in.
I'm not exaggerating here. For almost 2,000 years, Aristotle's categories were the bedrock of Western logic and science. It was a massive influence on thinkers in the medieval Islamic world and in Europe. For the first time, it gave scholars a shared vocabulary, a common framework for thinking clearly and systematically about the world. It was a way to build arguments, to debate reality itself. You could argue it was the world's very first blueprint for a scientific method.
And this is probably the most important thing to take away from all of this. This isn't just dusty old history. This way of thinking, this operating system for thought, if you will, is literally baked into the way we think and speak today. Seriously, if you've ever organized a spreadsheet, worked with a database, or done any kind of object-oriented programming, you are using Aristotle's logic. That core idea of an object, which is just a substance, that has various properties, the other 9 categories, that's a direct line back to this ancient Greek filing system.
Which brings me to a final question for you. Aristotle gave the ancient world 10 categories to make sense of reality. So just take a second and look around. From the way you organize files on your computer, to the aisles in the grocery store, to the tags you use on social media. What are the categories we use to organize our world today?